Okay, it's time to continue. And we left off at Ephraim this explaining to Apasius regarding the organization's hierarchy structures. So we continue with the chapter 6. Ephraim was about to continue, but Apasius decided to interrupt. Wow, how come our leader has so many people under his command? Isn't it unfair for others? Ephraim chuckled. Not really, because we are of different types. The two other platoon leaders always bicker with each other. But, but they don't really care about our leader having the most people, because we don't specialize in melee. As for Thomas, he may have his halberd as primary weapon, but he really loves this group and he will never go with melee guys. That's why when those two leaders were trying to entice Thomas to join their group, he refused. And that was after trying to lure him with a significant pay raise. Lord Pericles, he has the fewest people under his command because he needs to manage every other group as well. Pausius looked at a dead enemy soldier next to his feet. But what happens to the group who lost some people during the fight? How do they get reorganized? Ephraim thought for a while. The executives handle that. They have to recruit more people from Constantinopolis. Oh yeah, that's such a hassle for them. He started pushing the cart to raid. After a while, he looked back at Apasius. Also, I understand why Lord Pericles doesn't like full-scale warfare these days. It's because he hates losing his men, and adding to that, he hates reorganizing the soldiers and filling up empty spots. Pretty soon, he will recruit more people in Constantinopolis. Oh, didn't I tell you about Lord Pericles' bodyguards? He paused to see Apasius shaking his head. Yeah, so his bodyguards are in the same group as he is. Three of them to be exact. And they are also executives while guarding him at the same time. When Lord Pericles holds the meetings in the headquarters, his bodyguards are involved in it too, because they have to know those things as well if they are going to be of any help to him. They and the platoon leaders are the original leaders from the beginning, when this organization started. They are all workaholics who care about nothing else but this work. Well, who am I to blame others for being workaholics when I myself am here all the time too? Anyways, that's it for organizing. Now, let's focus on our work. After that, for a short time, they salvaged armor, weapons, and other supplies for future use. However, Ephraim had something else in mind. Let's go to the wagons. We'll salvage more along the way. Okay, Pausius reluctantly agreed, since raiding was starting to get fun. Suddenly, Pausius was curious about the whereabouts of the wagons, so he followed Ephraim. After going a certain distance, Ephraim put some spears into the cart. Our plan is to get Thomas as a platoon leader one day, so that we become his guards. The platoon leader's guards have prestige equal to captains, but they don't have so much work compared to them. But it's all about the titles that most people want. That's why they are all vying for titled spots rather than for the guard positions. Long time ago, Seth and I agreed to help Thomas rank up to the platoon leader, and then we will stick together instead of going off by ourselves. Say, do you want to join our pack? Thomas surely has the most chance because he's the only captain of three groups instead of two. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll be glad to help you guys whenever possible. Pasio smiled. Wait, that was too easy. Ephraim stopped walking. Apasius stopped to face Ephraim. What was too easy? Ephraim gazed at Apasius. The fact that you immediately agreed to this. Apasius spread out his arms in surprise. Then, what was I supposed to do? I liked the pact, so I agreed. No, you were supposed to hesitate for a while at least. Ephraim scratched his head. Apasius shrugged. But don't you like that I agreed? Ephraim took a deep breath. Well, I like it, but it just came fast. Pasios backed off a bit. Well, I agreed. You like it, so we're done here. Anyways, it's getting awkward. So, how does filling up empty spots really work? How do they decide who goes where and where? really explained that in detail last time. Ephraim paused for a while to forget about the previous talk. Well, first, Lord Pericles always wants his group to be full force. Whether some are injured or not, he wants it to be full. Filling in spots is also decided by the executives and the field test. Among the soldiers who have passed the test, Lord Pericles would ask for some guys to leave the medium infantry group to fill in his heavy infantry group, and then the executives decide with a vote. He would need 8 votes out of 12 for his suggestion to be granted. Other times, the executives would decide things without his suggestion. As far as I know, it has been going very smoothly so far in the headquarters. It seems they all maintain their civility by keeping the system intact, and not going overboard and fighting with each other. Passius felt that something wasn't clear. Well, come to think of it, why don't the group numbers add up so well when everyone's in the group of 4? 41 doesn't get divided by 4, neither does 29 nor 21. Oh, it's because every platoon also takes with them 5 staff members. They have been decided by the executives. Lord Pericles, his guards, other platoon leaders, 2 staff members, and 3 others. Maybe that's the reason why you were confused during the count. Ephraim started walking again. Pasio started pushing the cart. Okay, if the executives are involved in many things, then do they also decide to move people from group to group within the platoon? Ephraim put his hand to his chin to think. No, they don't involve as deep as that. They just let the platoon leaders manage their own platoons. He paused to grab some pretty textiles on the ground and put them in the cart. Usually, the captains and officers agree to their requests of moving some soldiers for the benefit of the group. In return, the platoon leaders let captains manage their own group, and then the captains let the officers manage their own group. However, it isn't to say that all titled people are lenient as though and loose as I have described. There are some who are more controlling than others, but at least for our platoon leader, he is the most lenient of them all and also the nicest. The 2 medium melee infantry platoon leaders are brutish and are the most controlling ones, while Lord Pericles just has too many tasks on him to care much about his platoon. Thus, one of his bodyguards is an assistant platoon leader who frequently takes care of the platoon work for him. Pretty soon, Lord Pericles would have to increase the number of platoon leaders, and hopefully then, Thomas is the one added. Passios nodded. Okay, so you mentioned that we have staff members. Who are they? They're the supporting people for the soldiers. Whenever there's an army marching, it isn't just soldiers on the march, but civilians follow them around because they are very much needed. So we have one evaluator, one recorder, 2 engineers, and a spy to make 5 staff members total in their group. Ephraim took out a water skin to drink. Well, I got a drink too. There we go. They're the supporting people for the soldiers. Oh, I already read that. Passios was reminded of how thirsty he was. Wow, that's interesting. Do you want to know who other groups have? Ephraim then pointed at the water skin to see if Apacius wanted some. Then he handed it over when Apacius nodded. Yes, of course. Apacius jumped in joy and drank some water. Ephraim chuckled. Lord Pericles' group has 2 evaluators, 2 recorders, and 1 engineer. Then the 2 medium infantry platoons each have 1 evaluator, 1 diplomat, 1 recorder, and 1 spy. The first group also has 1 engineer while the other has 1 more evaluator. So, there you go. Every group has 5 staff members added. Passius put his helmet back on. But, say, is our platoon the only one with both range and melee weapons? Yes, but still, not all of us. It's only the gunners and crossbowmen who are the only ones with the advantage of having 2 types of weapons. The archers just have a dagger, short sword, or axe as melee. But we don't count those flimsy things as weapons. They hardly fight melee. So it's our job to protect them all at all costs when the enemies charge at us, or stall them as long as possible so the archers could get out of the way, Ephraim said. Pacius nodded. Oh, no wonder they were just standing behind us when we were struggling in the street fight. He held out the water skin for Ephraim to take it back. Ephraim took back the water skin. Indeed, it's often frustrating to not get any help from them. But who am I to say? They're the archers, and their job is to kill enemies with arrows, not daggers. Also, they only wear leather vests as armor or nothing at all, so it's only fair that they are the last to partake in the front lines. Hey, but wouldn't soldiers from other platoons find it unfair that we get to use two kinds of weapons while they are just stuck with one? I will find it unfair at least, Apasius said. Thankfully, many people don't think like you, Apasius. They love slicing and piercing their swords into the enemy's bodies. These guys here, many are fanatics who will do anything to kill someone. Lord Pericles has to be careful in order to refresh their berserk behavior from time to time, Ephraim said. What do you mean by berserk behavior? Apasius stopped for a moment. Ephraim stopped for Apasius. It's a phrase which describes how soldiers here get agitated and impatient when the peace ensues for longer than they could handle. So, let's say that a half year is our limit. If peace continues for more than that time, then they will start brawling amongst different factions and unrest will be prevalent in the fortress. Oh, that's why hardly anyone wants to use crossbows or guns. Apasius looked around and realized that they were the only ones on that street. Yes, they don't want to take upon the patience that it takes one to use crossbows and guns. Even archers don't have that kind of patience when they themselves want to rack up how many people they have killed. Ephraim chuckled. The patience in practicing is much different from the patience in getting kills. Have you noticed that archers could easily fire more than 5 shots while the gunners shoot one? That's the patience the archers and the melee guys don't want to go through. Also, you may not get as much thrill when you kill someone with a gun instead of slicing them with swords. As a result, they want to charge in as soon as possible. Period. He then stomped on the ground. Why do you use guns when you know all these things? What made you choose this weapon? Pasius started walking again. Ephraim flinched a bit due to an unexpected question, but he maintained his composure. He then pointed at the wagon so that Pasius would follow him there to unload. Ephraim sighed. He really didn't expect the new guy to be so cute. I guess I will tell you this because we both use guns. Guns are what I think. A weapon that'll be the game changers in warfare. That's an honorable way to reason it. Why I really use it is because I like seeing pure hopelessness in enemies' eyes as they fall without even attacking me. Also, many crazy melee guys have died over the years as I was working here, but I managed to survive all the way till now. Those crazy guys are the human shields while I live on and see them fall here and there. After a while, that's become entertaining to me since I like to sit back and watch the chaos, both on enemy and ally alike. I was a swordsman before, but I took to using this gun the first chance that I received. And I say that I'm the first and the original gun user here. Also, you know that 3 gunners and 1 crossbowman group? I brought them together and Thomas let me manage them even though they have an officer. Ephraim stopped talking for a while, thinking about whether to say more or not. You see, I never sought to get to the top, but I've always managed to take my share of spoils, fun, and other benefits along the way through my conversational skills and getting many people to work with me. I'm telling you this because I can trust that you will keep it with me as a man to man and help each other throughout our lives here. Ephraim stopped walking to stare at Apasius to see if he was understanding everything. When he deemed it so that Apasius understood, he resumed walking. Lastly, you'll have so many chances yourself here to grow and mature with the organization, all the while taking benefits along the way. Thomas, Seth, and I will help you with it, as well as those crossbowmen and gunners, because we made an agreement that we will help each other live on. There's a meeting every Saturday morning at lunchtime in our fortress. We all sit around in a circle and praise the Lord Most High there and have discussions regarding our future plans and maintaining friendships with each other. Ephraim stopped yet another time and tapped on Aposio's shoulder. I tell you, you are really blessed, Aposios. When I came here, I had to start with nothing. I knew no one, and I wasn't able to trust anyone until I met Thomas. But you start with a stable organization and an excellent group. I apologize that we've been too busy lately to get you involved, but we are an excellent group, I guarantee it. But I need to stop talking. Let's go for the wagons. Ephraim said and resumed walking. Did he just acknowledge me as another man, while everyone else has been seeing me as a kid? Oh, thank you, Ephraim. I'll do whatever to help you out. I'll do my best and as best as I can to be of help to you, thought Aposios as he was walking alongside Ephraim. He then looked at Ephraim with such an admiring expression and couldn't control his gratefulness. Gee, thanks, Ephraim. Now everything's clear. You've told me so many things about our organization in full detail. Now I can relax in peace. Ephraim and Aposios reached the wagons, but something seemed very off. Some of the wagon crews were smeared with blood, and others were lying on the ground in pain. Ephraim quickly ran over to them. What happened here? We got attacked just before you guys came, one of the soldiers said. Ephraim looked at the blood-smeared soldier and shouted, Oh, hey, is that you, Placidas? Yeah, Placidas said. Ephraim looked at the soldiers around him in shock. Who got hurt? Does anyone have a medicine bag? The soldiers around Ephraim shook their heads and they resumed constantly talking to the injured soldiers to keep it together and hang on. Passius realized that they needed his help, so he quickly ran over with his bag of fresh cloth strips and medicines. Seth handed it to him before raiding, saying that fresh recruits would surely need it. However, here he was, trying to use it onto other soldiers as if he was a medic himself. Thank you, you're our savior. The soldier looked at Aposios in gratitude. Then all of them worked together to bandage up the soldiers who were injured. They all had numerous stab and slash wounds on their sides and backs. Those who got stab wounds had blood oozing out and were in serious trouble unless properly treated. Ephraim looked at Placidas. Hey, Placidas, did anyone get killed? Placidas slowly got up. Thankfully, no. However, those four guys' injuries are quite serious. We're not sure if they can make it, not to mention if their inner organs are fine. They're all medium melee soldiers who sacrificed so much to protect us engineers. The other two got some cuts, but we believe those aren't as serious. He looked at other soldiers in worry. Ephraim sighed as he looked at the injured soldiers who were groaning in pain while getting bandaged. He then looked around the surroundings for other soldiers nearby. Why aren't any commanders and medics around when we need them the most? Any captains here, though? Ephraim said. Placidas shook his head. No, we're all engineers and regular soldiers. Not even officers are here except for you. Lord Pericles never expected that we would be attacked. Anyways, who attacked you guys? What really happened? But seriously, you need to wipe off the blood very fast or else they'll stick on your armor. Pasius noticed that Ephraim was very worried. 5 Turkish militias came to us out of nowhere from that strait. We shouted at them to stay back. But suddenly, like 10 more rushed out from the buildings to the right of them and charged at us. Placidas continued nervously looking around. What's wrong? Ephraim put his hand on Placidas' shoulders and shook him. Pasius noticed that Placidas wasn't really himself. We killed 4 of them, so they retreated back to the building, and I don't know when they will come back. Placidas started trembling. What are you talking about? I don't see them around that building. Ephraim looked at Placidas for a while longer. Then he turned back to look at injured soldiers. Put the injured soldiers in this wagon, bandage them, and let's grab other shields and put them on our backs. That'll give us more protection. We'll then be better prepared to meet our foes again. Ephraim had a calm expression this time. Therefore, Aposios let go of his spear, picked up the sword of an injured soldier, and took out his shield and walked to the wagons. He then dropped his gun and munition baggage in the wagon, picked up another shield, and slung it on his back. Others picked up more shields, and two melee soldiers gave their shields to Ephraim and an engineer who each lacked one. The horses started neighing in nervousness, and it only made things worse by making soldiers tremble in fear of the unknown. Ephraim looked around nervously. Why isn't anyone coming over when we need them? The engineers had no knowledge of applying the medicine and bandage, so the two medium melee soldiers were stuck in the wagon treating their injured comrades. Therefore, protecting the wagon were just four engineers, an officer, and a fresh recruit, a totally awful defense against possibly highly trained militia, who may number more than 10. Just then, Thomas and two archers pushed their cart full of goods and appeared unto their view. Ephraim, what's going on? Just soon as Thomas shouted Ephraim, Aposios saw a group of Turkish militias running towards him from behind. Run! Ephraim shouted. Behind you! Aposios shouted. The engineers shouted out their alerts. This made Thomas to quickly look back, and he ran from the sudden incursion while the two archers followed them close behind. When Thomas approached Ephraim and Aposios, his eyes were big with shock. Hey, you two! Go into the wagon and start shooting! Thomas brought down his helmet's visor. Thomas quickly calmed down to find out what he could do in that short time before charge. I'll try to absorb their charge and break the line. You guys attack when I get in the midst of them. Then Thomas got himself ready to charge. He looked at the distance between him and the Turkish militias. Stop firing! Thomas charged into the incoming enemies. Thomas delivered a downward blow to the first militia's head and kicked him down. He was fighting at a place where the main street ended, and the wagons were waiting at the start of the open field. Ephraim brought down his visor and looked at Aposios. Are you ready? Ephraim's voice sounded a bit nervous. Yeah. Aposios sighed as he looked at Thomas fighting in the mist. The Turks were keeping their distance around Thomas, but soon charged at him all at once, and Aposios knew that he wouldn't be able to last long against so many people. Let's go! Ephraim lifted up his sword in the air and charged at the militias. He was followed by Aposios and engineers who did their best in helping Thomas get out of the thick of mess which he got himself into. The archers shot at the militias who were trying to sneak their way to kill the injured soldiers who were getting treated inside. Get out of my way! Thomas swung his halberd to make his way to regroup with his fellow soldiers. He had gone into the midst of more than 10 people to fight, but was fine thanks to his full plate armor. He then checked on his groupmates to see if everyone was fine. There were now 10 militias against Thomas, Ephraim, 4 engineers, and Aposios. After checking, he again charged into the defense line to fight. Aposios was fighting against another militia who was quite capable in sword fighting. He had stabbed numerous times at Aposios' side whenever he saw an opening but couldn't penetrate it due to the armor. Whenever Aposios tried stabbing or slashing at him, he easily blocked it off with his shield or even with the sword. Soon, another militia teamed up with the man and struck from behind Aposios. By then, Aposios thanked in his mind that Ephraim had made them slung another shield on their backs, because if it wasn't for the shield on his back, he would have been slashed right there where the armor was weak. Aposios moved around frequently so that militias couldn't get a further chance to deliver a serious blow to his legs or arms, where armor was even weaker. Soon he found himself on the left corner of the street with Ephraim to the right, and Thomas to Ephraim's right, trying to block a narrow street with the engineers. Suddenly, another group of militias ran over to help out their comrades. What? What's going on? Thomas couldn't believe the situation that they were in. They were starting to cope with the initial harsh condition, but it all of a sudden turned for the worse. Then they gasped when they saw one of the engineers fall back and collapse with a dagger pierced through his right side of the stomach. He groaned in pain and struggled to move away from the fight. So Thomas rushed over to cover the engineer, and this made Ephraim and Apacio's side vulnerable. Therefore, the enemy soldiers were delivering constant slashes against Ephraim and Apacio's, who were hanging on by a thread thanks to their armor. If the enemies made any piercings on the weak side of their armor, they were finished. When Apasios felt that he couldn't hang on much longer, two medium melee infantries from the wagon came to help. Apparently, they took swords and shields from the fallen Turkish militias. Thus, for a while, Ephraim and Apasios' front was relieved, and the other engineers were protected from further harm. However, they were stuck there, and it was only up to the time in which they would all lose out in the fight. Knowing this, Thomas and Ephraim shouted in vain for others to hang on, and continued to hold the line and went for quite some time. Oh no, you're not doing that! They heard a man shouting from somewhere behind the Turks, and looked to see Lord Pericles' heavy infantry rushing to help. It seemed as if they had just abandoned their carts full of raided goods, and ran over with their weapons raised. It took a long while for them to kill all the militias because of their sheer numbers. When they were done, they looked down at Thomas, Ephraim, and other soldiers around them, who had just sat down in relief. Commander Proteus, thank you, Thomas said. Commander Proteus carefully looked at them. What happened here? He then motioned at his soldiers to get the injured engineer taken care of. Thomas and Ephraim told Commander Proteus about what had happened. You guys did a great job. Those Turks slipped away when we were looking. Gosh, I never knew they would deliver such great damage on a large group. Commander Proteus looked at each of them. You guys look as if horses ran over you. But good thing no one died. He then pointed at Apasius. That rookie seems like he's out of it. See to him well, make sure he doesn't go astray from your eyes. Thomas, Ephraim, Apasius, and other soldiers agreed and stood back up and saluted Commander Proteus by clenching their right fists and placing them over their chests as the commander walked away. Everyone, resume raiding, and engineers, be ready to move the wagons since they're bringing kids and bushels of grain. Commander Proteus then went back to their carts with his soldiers. When the heavy melee infantry moved away to load the wagons, Thomas, Ephraim, and Apasius raided in silence for the rest of the raiding time. After a long while, they walked back towards the town square to perhaps raid some more in there. Well, that was the end of chapter 6. So, chapter 6 was about this raiding event, and I think it went on very nicely. So from now on, like the fights will be more and more severe, more and more intense. So you guys, now you really have to think about for reading, listening further into this book. It's your choice. So if you want more of that, then good for you. But if you don't want more, I just ask you to just not listen to it. I mean, you don't have to click it. It's you're the one who's clicking it. So, anyways, thank you for listening, and have a good day.